My wife was in labor, screaming in the back seat. And my sister sent me a selfie from a wine bar with the caption, "Hope it's nothing serious." That was the moment. The exact second I realized I wasn't family to them. I was just the guy who paid everyone else's bills. Let me take you back 6 years. My name's Reed. I'm 33, live in Indiana, and for most of my adult life, I've been the family wallet. It wasn't always like that. At least I didn't think it was. But when you grow up with a manipulative parent, it takes years to realize you are just another tool in their box. My mother, Darlene, is the queen of Midwestern martyrdom. Crocheted, Bible verses on the walls, casseroles for funerals, and a steel spine made of guilt trips. She raised me and my older sister Kendra after our dad bailed when I was 7. Kendra could do no wrong. Cheerleader, youth group princess, married a local contractor named Neil who flipped houses and posted rise and grind Instagram stories every morning like a damn televangelist. Meanwhile, I worked full-time as an IT guy for the school district and lived with my girlfriend, now wife, Talia. We kept it simple, rented a small house, shared one car, made it work. Talia's an EMT, the kind of person who stays calm while other people bleed. But my mother? She never forgave Talia for stealing her son. That's what she told my aunt at Thanksgiving, not knowing I overheard. It started slowly. "Reed, sweetheart, could you help with the electric bill this month? It's just been a little tight." Then, "Your sister's in a rough spot. Can you send Neil $200 for supplies?" Somehow it became normal to pay their utility bills, groceries, and even help cover Kendra's mortgage when Neil's flip house went bust. Talia never complained. Even when I was handing over $2,500 a month to my mom, she'd say, "Your family needs you. We'll be okay." I didn't realize how deep the hole was until we found out Talia was pregnant with our first. We were happy, scared, broke, but happy. Mom barely acknowledged it. Kendra made it all about her. "Wow, 3 cousins. In the same year. How special," she gushed, like our baby was an afterthought to her Instagram aesthetic. Still, I kept paying. Kept driving across town to fix their AC, change their oil, mow their yard. Kept nodding when Darlene passive-aggressively suggested we baptize our daughter properly. When our first was born, Savannah, it was a whirlwind. Talia had an emergency C-section. I called my mom in a panic, asking her to watch our dog while we rushed to the hospital. She didn't answer. Later, she said she wasn't near her phone, but she'd seen my missed calls. When I brought it up, she brushed it off. "You shouldn't. Rely on others for your emergencies," Talia said. "She's never going to be there for us, Reed." I still didn't listen. 2 years passed. Savannah thrived. Talia and I scrimped and saved, finally bought a tiny fixer-upper. I was still paying Mom's mortgage and half of Kendra's credit card debt. Neil bought a boat. I kid you not, a boat. Then came baby number 2. This pregnancy was different. Harder. Talia was nauseous for months. Savannah needed more attention, and I was stretched thin. I worked nights, fixed Mom's plumbing on weekends, and Venmo'd Kendra every other Thursday like clockwork. The day of the implosion was June 3rd. Talia was 36 weeks. It was hot, stormy. Savannah had a fever and was clinging to my leg when Talia groaned and grabbed the doorway. My water just broke. I froze. Then the training kicked in, bag packed, car seat in, hospital on speed dial. One problem, Savannah. It was midnight. Her usual sitter was out of town. No friends answered. I called my mom. "Mom, Talia's in labor. Can you come stay with Savannah? We'll only be gone a few hours." Silence. Then, "Oh, honey, my back's out. I can't even bend over right now. I'd love to help, but I just can't." I offered to bring Savannah there. "She's sleeping. You won't even have to move." "Still no. We're not as young as we used to be, Reed. You understand." She hung up. Just like that. I called. "Kendra next." She picked up sounding tipsy, laughter in the background. Clinking glasses. "Labor? Like, actual labor?" "That's crazy. I'm out with Neil. It's our date night. Can't reschedule, babe." I didn't even get angry. I felt empty. Talia was gripping the seat, moaning in pain. I was watching the woman I love suffer, and my own family couldn't lift a finger. I called my neighbor, Mr. Larkin. Retired, 68, barely knew us. He was at our door in 3 minutes. "Go," he said. "I've got this." Talia was sobbing in the passenger seat as we sped toward the hospital. "You called your mom?" she whispered. I nodded. Couldn't speak. That was the moment the switch flipped. The quiet rage. The betrayal. The realization that I'd spent years breaking my back for people who would let my wife bleed out if it meant protecting their comfort. And I was done. Dead. Freaking done. Talia was admitted in a blur. Monitors, IVs, screaming. A nurse asked me a question, and I couldn't even process what she said. I was still thinking about that goddamn text from my sister. Hope it's nothing serious. My brain short-circuited. Was that sarcasm? A joke? Or just straight-up cruelty? Talia squeezed my hand until I heard something pop in my knuckle. "Stay with me, Reed," she whispered. "Please." So I locked in. Watched her fight through every contraction like a goddamn warrior. No meds. Things moved too fast. Our son, Ezra, was born at 4:42 a.m., covered in blood and crying and perfect, and no one in my family even knew or cared. Talia fell asleep from exhaustion. I sat there staring at our son, wrapped like a burrito, and something inside me just flipped. I pulled out my phone. Group text. Me. Ezra Reed Brooks, born 4:42 a.m., 6 Labese, 10Z, mom and baby healthy. Mom. That's wonderful. News. God is good. Kendra. Oh, congrats. Next time give us more heads up, LOL. Neil. Reacted with a thumbs up emoji. That's it. No offer to visit, no offer to help. Just casual indifference like I'd told them we adopted a goldfish. I didn't reply. I didn't feel like they deserved a reply. By 10 a.m., Talia was out. Cold. I went home to get Savannah and the spare car seat. Mr. Larkin had made her breakfast, put her in a clean outfit, and braided her hair. The man was practically a stranger. But he showed up. My parents hadn't even called. I swung by their place on the way back to the hospital. I still had the spare car seat base in their garage. Thought I'd slip in, grab it, and bounce. What I walked into? A cheerful little brunch, like my wife hadn't just gone through hell giving birth alone. I stood in the doorway of their kitchen, blinking. Waffles, mimosa pitchers, bacon in a cast-iron skillet, fresh-cut fruit. Kendra was there, full glam, sipping orange juice out of a wine glass. Neil was laughing with my mom. My dad was dancing to some Motown song with my nephew. I just stood there. My mother, who couldn't sit up 4 hours ago, was now spinning in a sundress and heels like she was auditioning for The View. Kendra saw me first. She froze mid-laugh. Her expression? Like I'd caught her cheating on a test. "Oh," Mom said, smiling too wide. "You're here." I didn't speak. Just walked to the garage, grabbed the car seat, turned around. "Did everything go okay?" she asked casually. "No." One looked concerned. No one stood. No one asked to see pictures. I paused. Looked at them all, smiling, tan, freshly showered, like nothing happened. "My wife gave birth," I said coldly. "Your grandson is 6 hours old. I called you crying at midnight and you said your back hurt. Then I texted Kendra and she told me she was on date night." Mom blinked. "Reed, don't do this." I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, bitter bark. "You had a brunch party while I was begging strangers to watch my kid, while my wife was screaming in the ER pushing out your grandson." "Your tone," Kendra started. "Don't," I snapped. My dad stepped forward. "Son, you don't understand." "No, you don't," I growled. "I have paid your mortgage, your bills, bought your groceries, gave your daughter thousands of dollars. For what?" Nobody answered. "For this? This fake-ass brunch while my wife was in labor? You could have picked up the phone, driven 10 minutes, but you didn't." Kendra rolled her eyes. "Why do you always have to make everything about you?" That did it. I took out my phone. Opened. The banking app. "Effective immediately," I said, holding up my phone. "No more money, no more groceries, no more auto pay on the mortgage, no more utilities, nothing. You're on your own. You're being irrational," my mom gasped. "No," I said. "I've just finally woken up." And then I left. Didn't look back. Didn't check if they followed. Just walked out and slammed the door behind me. Back at the hospital, I held my son in the crook of my arm and told Talia everything. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Finally," she whispered. "You finally see it." That night, I sat in the corner chair holding Ezra and realized I had protected the wrong people for far too long. Nothing felt the same after I cut them off. I left the hospital with Talia and Ezra, that tiny, perfect body wrapped in blankets. We arrived at our little house, the one we struggled to fix. It looked like salvation. For a day, silence. No calls. No passive-aggressive texts. Nothing, until the call came. It was Kendra, her voice shaky. "Reed, I'm really sorry. We didn't think—" "We didn't think?" I snapped. "You didn't think I'd need anything?" Her voice cracked. "We thought you had help. People there." "Yeah," I said, letting it hang. "I had a man I'd known for a week. That was my help." Silence. "Reed," she said, voice softer. "Mom's upset. She says she didn't know how serious it was." I cut in. "You didn't know how serious what was? Labor? Birth? Giving me enough fucking warning to show up?" Muffled crying. She hung up. Then a notification. A text from Mom. "Mom. Reed, please reconsider. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was in pain." I looked at Talia. She shrugged. I opened the reply box and deleted it. Instead, I did something else. I withdrew all future transfers, sent a single transfer to Mom, enough for her next electric bill. Nothing more. 1 day passed, then another. 5 days in total. That morning, Talia came home from shift and found me on the couch staring at my bank statement. "Reed?" she asked. "You okay?" "Just thinking." I sighed. "They're going to come," and they did. Brisk knock at 9 a.m. My heart jumped. I ran upstairs, hid in the nursery, peeking through the door. My mom and Kendra. Mom's eyes were puffy. She had photos in her hand, Xeroxed black and white from years ago, their old Christmas photos. She approached the nursery door, whispered, "Sweetheart, can we come in?" I let her in. They crowded the room. Talia lowered Ezra in his crib. She was calm. Spectator to the showdown. Mom cleared her throat. "I brought pictures. Of you as a baby." I watched from the corner. "Look." Mom spread the photos on a small side table. I saw a chubby, smiling baby with the same face. My heart clenched. Mom sniffed. "You were my world then, Reed. I just—" Kendra picked up a photo. "You look so happy." I stared at them, emotion twisting in my gut. "Mom," I whispered, "you took my graduation money. You used my college fund for rehab classes you never took. You used it all." Tears welled in her eyes. She backed. "I was overwhelmed." "Then," I said, voice rising, "you gaslit me into being grateful. You made me feel lucky to give you what you stole." Kendra gasped. "Reed." I felt something break inside me. I paced the small room. All of my adult life, every paycheck, every bonus, it went straight to you. To fix your problems, to cover your mistakes, to bail out your kid. I slammed my fist on the wall. The plaster cracked. "And what did I get?" I yelled. "Ignored in the darkest hour of my life." Silence. Mom whispered, "Honey, we love you." A cold laugh escaped me. Was that love or convenience? Kendra's voice betrayed fear. We need to support you." "I have support," I said. "Right here." I pointed to Talia and Ezra. "You never did." The room closed around me. I felt drained, relieved, angry, victorious. Mom's face crumpled. Kendra was wiping tears. They left without saying more. Blocks of silence followed. The house felt too quiet, still. Talia came over and hugged me. "You gave them a chance," I nodded. "Now I've got to live with the cost, but I know where I stand." That night, I lay awake listening to Ezra's breathing. I thought about forgiveness and boundaries and what it means to be a father, husband, and finally, a man who stood up for himself. I felt tears on my pillow. Didn't wipe them because this collapse of everything I thought I owed is freedom, and it's terrifying. The envelope came 2 days later. No return address. Just a neat church lady kind of handwriting on the front. Inside, a prayer card, a pamphlet on forgiveness, and a handwritten note from my mother. "Dear Reed, we know you're hurting. We're hurting too. You need to remember what matters. Family. Please call us before it's too late. Love, Mom." I stared at it, then laughed out loud. Talia raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Mom sent a flyer from Jesus," I said, tossing it in the trash. "Apparently, he forgives liars who host brunch while their grandson is being born." Talia didn't smile. She just leaned in and whispered, "Don't let them back in, not even a little." I didn't plan to, but they weren't done. 3 days later, I came home from a grocery run with Savannah, and my parents were standing on my front porch like we were in some Hallmark movie gone wrong. My mom was dressed like she was headed to a funeral, black sweater, big sunglasses, hair done too nice for a drop-by. Dad was holding a tin of brownies like that made up for decades of emotional neglect. I told Savannah to take the milk inside and shut the door behind her. Mom stepped forward first. "We just want to talk, Reed." "Talk?" I snorted. "You? Remember how to do that now?" She sighed, like I was the problem. "Sweetheart, you're making things worse than they need to be. This is just a misunderstanding." "Which part?" I snapped. "The part where you ignored your daughter-in-law. In labor? Or the part where you threw a brunch with orange juice mimosas while I was begging strangers for help?" My dad tried to speak up, but I cut him off. "Do you even know your grandson's name?" I asked. "Silence, Ezra," I said. "Not that you asked. Born 4 weeks early, 6 alabis 1 OZ. Talia had tearing, stitches. You know, things you might have. Noticed if you gave a damn." Mom's eyes welled up. She reached for me. "We made a mistake." "Oh," I said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You made a mistake. That's what we're calling it now. Like you forgot to pick up eggs at the store. Not like you abandoned your son's family during an emergency." "We were tired," she whispered. "You don't know what it's like to be tired," I interrupted. "Lady, I haven't slept since May. I've been holding this whole damn family together with duct tape while you and Kendra play royalty." She dropped the act then, her face twisted, old venom seeping back in. "You always were dramatic, ever since you were a boy, making everything about you." I stepped forward. "You're right," I said. "This time it is about me, and my kids, and my wife, and I will never let them near people who weaponize love like you do." Dad held up the brownie tin. "Can't we just come in for a minute?" I actually laughed. "You want to come in?" Opened the screen door slowly, then slammed it shut in his face. "No," I said. "But you can leave those brownies on the porch if you're that desperate to contribute something for once." They left without another word. Talia watched from the window, holding Ezra, her face unreadable. Then she nodded once. "You did good," she said. "I think that was the first time you really slammed the door." She was right. But it wasn't over. That weekend, a mutual friend texted me from a church fundraiser. "Hey man, just so you know, your mom's telling everyone you're in a bad place mentally. Something about you being unstable, acting erratically." Of course. Why own your failures when you can paint your son as the villain? I didn't confront her. No, I did something better. Monday morning, I posted a single message to Facebook. A place I rarely used, but where all their church friends lurked. To those who've heard I'm acting erratically, my wife gave birth early. My parents refused to help. My sister blew me off. I had to call a neighbor to stay with my toddler while I rushed my wife to the ER. If that sounds unstable to you, maybe ask why being a decent human being is such a high bar in this family. It exploded. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of private messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, and silence from my parents' camp. Until the next day. My sister sent me a text. "You just embarrassed Mom and Dad in front of everyone. You've ruined their reputation." I replied with one sentence. "Good. Now maybe they'll stop using mine as a shield." She didn't answer. But the next bomb came through email, this time from their pastor. He wanted to mediate a reconciliation. I sent him the voicemail of my mother, trashing Talia to her own mother. Never heard back. By Friday, I had removed my parents from every emergency contact, updated my will, and changed the locks. Then I mailed them a box. Inside, a typed letter. "Thank you for the years of manipulation, the guilt, the expectations. Without them, I wouldn't have learned what real love looks like. Real love shows up. You didn't. The ATM is closed, permanently." 3 weeks after I shut them out, the silence cracked. It wasn't a call, not a text. Not even one of those passive-aggressive prayer cards. It was my dad, standing on my front lawn, arms crossed, looking like the ghost of a man who used to bark orders from the dinner table. I was watering the yard, Ezra strapped to my chest, Savannah drawing chalk suns on the driveway. He didn't say hello, didn't ask about the kids, didn't even look me in the eye. He just said, "The electric company's threatening to shut off the power, and the bank called about foreclosure," like he was reading off a grocery list. I blinked, then turned off the hose. "That sounds like a you problem, Reed," he said, using that patronizing tone he'd perfected in my teenage years. "We're your parents. You don't turn your back on your own." "You did," I replied. "At 2 a.m., when my wife was in labor and I begged you for help. You turned your back real fast then." He didn't answer. So I handed him the truth. I've paid your bills for years. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, even helped Kendra cover Neil's truck loan. You didn't just use me. You expected me to bleed for you while you toasted mimosas and played favorites. That's not fair, he muttered. No, I snapped. What's not fair is watching my wife sob in the ER while you chase Kendra's kids around in a sundress. What's not fair is raising a son to be your backup retirement plan. He looked down at his shoes. For once, the arrogance cracked. Your mother's not well, he mumbled. She's under a lot of stress. Stress, I echoed. From what? Not getting free money anymore? He didn't answer. Go ask Kendra, I said finally. See how generous she gets when the lights go out. He left. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, my phone blew up again, this time from my sister's husband's parents. They invited me and Talia to a family dinner. Talia raised a brow when I told her. You think it's a trap? I think it's a performance. But we went, because I wanted to see it fall apart. Their house was as ridiculous as I remembered. White stone pillars, a foyer that smelled like expensive soap. Kendra greeted us at the door in heels, and a forced smile so tight I thought her jaw might crack. Neil's parents were already seated. His dad, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, the type who didn't waste words, looked up and gave me a curt nod. Dinner was quiet. At first, too quiet. Then Neil's mom, Janet, folded her napkin and said, So, we've heard some things. Talia stiffened beside me. Depends on who you heard them from, I said. Your mother, Janet replied. She came to us last week, said you'd cut them off and were spreading vicious lies. My stomach churned, but I didn't flinch. I told her the truth, I said. That she abandoned my family in an emergency. That I was done bankrolling people who only remember my name when the bills are due. Neil's dad spoke next. We remember that night. You showed up while they were hosting brunch. That didn't look like a family in crisis. Janet nodded. We asked her why she couldn't help, and she said her back hurt. Funny how she could chase toddlers later. The silence was delicious. Kendra's face had gone pale. She told us it was a misunderstanding, Janet added. But we're not stupid. We've watched how she treats you for years, Kendra snapped. Oh my God, can we not do this now? Neil turned to her, suddenly sharp. Why didn't you ever help with your parents? He asked. All this time, you let your brother carry the weight. Why? Kendra stammered. They needed him. I have the kids, the house, things going on. Janet cut her off. You have 4 empty bedrooms and spend more on throw pillows than Reed spends on groceries. The table imploded after that. Kendra stormed off, shouting something about betrayal. Neil followed, red-faced. His parents stayed calm, like this was all inevitable. As we stood to leave, Janet touched my arm. For what it's worth, we believe you. I nodded. Then Talia, quiet until now, said softly, We don't need belief. Just peace. On the drive home, I looked over at her. You okay? She smiled, tired but proud. Better than I've ever been. And me, I felt high. Not out of joy, but justice. They weren't just exposed. They were unraveling. 2 weeks later, it happened. A beat-up white sedan I didn't recognize pulled into our driveway. It wasn't fast, wasn't loud, just slow and final. Talia peeked through the curtain. It's them, she said. Both of them. I didn't ask who she meant. I already knew. I opened the door before they could knock. My parents stood on the porch looking like they'd aged 20 years in 2 weeks. Mom was wearing a faded sweater with holes at the cuff. Dad's jeans sagged, his belt missing. He wasn't even pretending anymore. I didn't say anything. I waited. Mom spoke first, voice soft, like it might float away. We lost the house. I just looked at her. We're living in a motel, she continued. Off I-75, the one next, to the gas station. Dad stayed quiet, eyes locked on his shoes. We thought maybe you'd reconsider. I leaned against the doorframe, crossed my arms. Why? Because now you finally run out of other people to bleed dry? She flinched, but didn't deny it. Then came the twist of the knife. We spoke to a lawyer, she said. He told us, technically grandparents have rights. We could petition the court to see the children. You can't keep them from us. I exhaled slowly, not surprised, but disgusted. So this is the play now? Legal threats after everything you've done? You left us no choice, she hissed. Talia stepped forward, baby on her hip. She didn't speak, but the look she gave my mother could have frozen lava. Then I smiled. Not angry, not mocking, just done. Go ahead, I said. File whatever you want. Dad finally spoke. You think a judge will side with you? I stepped outside. Let the screen door close behind me. You're broke, homeless, with no stable address, no employment, and a history of refusing to help your own family in emergencies. You want to walk into court and ask a judge for access to children you abandoned? Be my guest. Just remember, everything you've done is in writing, texts, emails, voicemails. Their faces changed. They weren't just scared. They were exposed. Wasn't the scared little boy begging for love anymore. I was the man with the receipts. You weaponized guilt. You used my loyalty. You gaslit me into thinking I owed you for being born. They didn't speak. You want to see my kids? I said. Remember their birthdays. Remember the day they were born. Remember that you weren't there. Not because you couldn't be, but because you didn't want to be. Talia opened the door behind me. Time to go, she said, cool as ice. My mother's final plea was barely a whisper. Please, we're still your parents. I looked her dead in the eyes. And I'm still your son. But I'm no longer your lifeline. Then I shut the door. Hard. Didn't cry. I didn't shake. I felt relief. Deep, pure, oxygen-level relief. The next morning, I changed every number, every password, every trace of them left in my life. I filed a no-contact order, just in case, even sent copies of everything to my lawyer, just in case they ever did try to show up in court, but they never filed. They knew it was over. I heard through the grapevine that they ended up in a subsidized senior apartment complex. Mom apparently tells her neighbors I'm in the military, so she doesn't have to explain why her son doesn't visit. Kendra? Last I heard, Neil's parents cut off all financial help after that dinner. She started reselling handbags online and doing mommy coaching on TikTok. Her marriage, in counseling, barely hanging on. She texted me once, "You ruined our family." I blocked her mid-sentence because I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending. 6 months later, Savannah started kindergarten. Ezra took his first steps. We moved into a new house with a bigger yard. Paid for it in full. No co-signers, no hidden strings, no secret debts. Talia's parents came for Christmas. Brought homemade pies and diapers. Played board games with the kids. Didn't ask for money, didn't ask for anything, just showed up with love, and that's what it's supposed to be, isn't it? Family that shows up. One night, I was sitting on the back porch watching Savannah chase fireflies while Talia nursed Ezra under a blanket. She looked up at me. "Do you miss them?" she asked quietly. I thought about it. The Sunday dinners, the empty hugs, the years I spent chasing crumbs of affection with a paycheck. "No," I said. "I miss who I thought they were. But who they really were, not for a second. And I meant it. You can't mourn what never existed. You can only build something better in its place, and I did. We did. Right here, on this porch, under this sky, surrounded by love that costs nothing and means everything. And here it is, the finale of today's story. Did everything turn out as you imagined, or did it end unexpectedly? I'd love to hear what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's dive into the discussion together. If this story kept you in suspense, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? This is your chance to join an incredible community where exciting new stories unfold every day. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date. Thanks for your attention and see you on your new adventures.